The deal also includes a 3-year exemption on national insurance contributions paid by Indian employees working in the UK.
India trade deal, calling it a smasher. Is that a phrase in itself? Do they use that in business meetings, in the boardroom? Don't hear Alan.
Britain has signed a £5 billion a year trade deal with India, which the government hopes will make it easier for both countries to buy and sell goods like whiskey, like cars, like jewellery.
What's costing British taxpayers more while foreign workers get a free ride? The UK-India trade deal quietly exempts Indian migrants from paying national insurance for 3 years. Let that sink in. Meanwhile, Starmer's Labour government is hiking taxes on hard-working Brits to record levels. This isn't just unfair, it's a calculated betrayal of British workers during a cost of living crisis. The numbers don't lie, and you deserve to know exactly what's happening. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video.
And accusing Tories of criticism out of envy, despite concerns over tax breaks for Indian workers and firms.
And this is an arrangement known as the Double Contribution Convention, designed to make sure national insurance contributions are not made in...
The tax burden facing British workers today is the heaviest it's been in 70 years. Working families across the UK are struggling to make ends meet under the weight of national insurance hikes, frozen tax thresholds, and increased business taxes. This isn't just economic pressure, it's a systematic squeeze on hard-working Brits who are watching more of their paychecks vanish each month. And what's Starmer's government doing while British citizens shoulder this unprecedented burden? They're handing Indian migrants a 3-year tax holiday. Yes, you heard that correctly. Hidden in the details of the UK-India trade deal is a provision that most media outlets have conveniently overlooked. Indian workers coming to Britain will pay absolutely zero national insurance contributions for up to 3 years. This shocking exemption isn't receiving nearly the attention it deserves, especially when British workers are being told they must sacrifice more to support public services.
So it means Indian employees transferred to Britain by their company won't pay their NICs, as they're called, here, and the same applies to British workers.
That we, the UK, have done since we left the EU, and it's the most ambitious trade deal that India has ever done.
But the preferential treatment doesn't stop there. This exemption extends beyond just the workers themselves. Their employers also get a free pass on national insurance contributions. This creates a clear and significant financial incentive for UK companies to hire Indian nationals over British workers. The implications of this are both obvious and troubling.
It's nice to see Keir Starmer working on trade deals that are outside of the EU, because one of the worries we have at the moment...
Workers transferred by their company to India. The UK has similar agreements with more than 50 countries, including the US, EU countries.
Let's break down what this means in real terms. A British worker earning £30,000 per year will pay approximately £2,700 in national insurance annually. Their Indian counterpart, earning exactly the same salary and doing exactly the same job, contributes nothing, zero, to the system. Over the 3-year exemption period, that's around £8,100 that British workers must pay, while Indian migrants are completely exempt. The Indian government isn't even trying to hide how advantageous this arrangement is for them. They've openly celebrated this unprecedented achievement, explicitly stating that the deal makes Indian service providers significantly more competitive in the UK. Let's translate what that really means. The Indian government is essentially admitting their workers now have an unfair advantage over British workers in the British job market. Nigel Farage provided a stark calculation of this advantage, pointing out that the deal makes it approximately 20% cheaper to employ an Indian worker compared to a British worker.
And so if he is faced with 2 workers, one of whom comes with no NI liability and one of whom does, because...
The biggest deal since Brexit, says Keir Starmer, but it's a little issue of national insurance that is bothering people.
Yeah.
The thing about national insurance is that unlike tax, it's not just paid by the employee, the employer has to make a contribution as well.
He also highlighted that employers' national insurance contributions had increased by 2% per worker, costing companies an average of at least £1,000 annually per worker. When businesses are looking at their bottom line, who do you think they'll choose to hire? The British worker who comes with thousands in additional tax costs, or the Indian worker who offers a significant discount? For UK businesses facing tough economic conditions, this financial calculation becomes dangerously simple. Hiring Indian workers saves thousands in employer contributions, while British workers become comparatively expensive. This isn't just unfair competition, it's a government policy that actively disadvantages British citizens in their own job market.
In billions of pounds into our economy and jobs across the whole of the United Kingdom. So it is a really important, significant...
What workers are we talking about? And my information is, and this is a very recent sort of story, is that they're specialist people coming in.
What makes this arrangement particularly galling is that these Indian migrants will benefit from British public services, the NHS, roads, police and more, without contributing a penny toward maintaining them. Meanwhile, British citizens shoulder ever-increasing tax burdens to sustain those very same services that everyone uses. This isn't equality, it's exploitation of British taxpayers. The Centre for Migration Control has rightly condemned the deal, stating that it hands far too many concessions to Indian workers at the expense of British taxpayers. Their assessment cuts to the heart of the issue.
They're doctors or surgeons or whatever, but very specialist
But they are
people. So we're not talking.
Sure, but they're cheaper to employ here.
Yeah.
Mr. Modi and I decided in Brazil last year that we would move at pace in relation to these negotiations.
Starmer's Labour government has effectively created a two-tier tax system that discriminates against its own citizens, prioritising foreign workers over British ones during a cost of living crisis. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith didn't mince words when he warned that the deal exempts Indian workers from paying national insurance contributions, even after these contributions were increased for British workers. His assessment was blunt. Every time Keir Starmer negotiates, Britain loses. And in this case, British workers are the ones losing most directly. This arrangement represents more than just bad policy. It reveals something deeply troubling about the priorities of this Labour government. At a time when British families are struggling with rising costs and stagnant wages, why would any government deliberately make it cheaper to hire foreign workers while increasing taxes on its own citizens? The answer to that question matters, because this isn't simply about economics, it's about fundamental fairness and whether this government truly represents the interests of the British people. British workers deserve a level playing field, not policies that handicap them in their own country. They deserve a government that puts their interests first, not one that creates financial incentives for businesses to look elsewhere for labour.
Short-term visas. So it's not factory workers, but it will be musicians or chefs or people who have a particular skill.
In a serious way, in a pragmatic way, and we're able to show that that's what delivers results.
Now, if it were all Indian workers, they wouldn't be here on short-term visas anyway, so they are very special.
What we're witnessing is nothing less than a betrayal of British workers, a calculated decision to prioritise foreign interests over domestic needs during a time of economic hardship. The question now is how long British taxpayers will tolerate being treated as second-class citizens in their own country. This tax exemption reveals the Labour government's true priorities, and British workers aren't among them. Starmer campaigned on promises to put British interests first, yet his government has created a system that actively punishes them with higher taxes while rewarding foreign workers with exemptions. Nigel Farage highlighted this betrayal, noting companies transferring workers from India benefit from tax breaks, while British workers face increased costs. The fundamental question remains unanswered. Why would any British government deliberately make it more expensive to hire its own citizens? This isn't just bad policy, it's a direct betrayal of every British worker struggling to make ends meet.